So, got a good block in here. What I don't love is that the paint is kind of thin-ish in these areas. So I want to kind of bring some thicker texture to the paint and maybe some variation in color that isn't in the reference. Because it's daylit, I think we can kind of come in with a little bit more cools to intersperse with the warms to get some of that broken color idea that we always think about. I love this idea of broken color. So I'm using this medium here. It's called Oleo Pasto. It's a very thick kind of medium that I love for thickening up paint. It's pretty amazing. And I'm going to be using brushes that are very, very stiff, right? Almost stiff from the point where if I push down on it, it's almost like a bristle. It is a bristle brush, but very, very stiff. These are Utrecht brands 209F Finest Interlock bristle brushes. Not sure about the specifics on them. And then this Princeton Select Scumbler brush, just because I like that they don't have any give. I usually love soft brushes that have give. Now I'm going to move into putting texture on here and kind of scumbling on paint. So I'm going to start with, it's funny, I'm going to start with this round right here. I'm going to start with this round. It's a size 1. I'm going to dip into my Oleo Pasto as my base. And I want to bring in some interesting cools and warms. So pulling into this Gamblin Radiant Blue to hit my highlights. So we have pretty much warm surrounded by cool highlights, which would be kind of nice. And thinking about just scooping up texture that we're going to be able to kind of overplay right now. If you look, there's a little bit of light through here. There's this light down here. Not worried about hairs of the mustache or any of that stuff right now. Just thinking about putting in higher chroma, a little bit cooler chroma as well. So pulling in some of the warms. I don't love that color. And thinking about how the paint is going to be, again, scumbled across the surface. Using some of the flake white here, which is very, very thick. This is a flake white I've had for probably 10 years. I'm trying to even wrestle with it. I'm liking that. And keeping the brushwork kind of going with the surface. So we're inventing a lot. Pulling in some of the Naples yellow extra here. Making it a little bit thicker. And then using this brush to scoop it up. And think about how it's pulling around this area and these values. You can see that there's pores on his skin, but we don't want to paint every pore. We actually want the texture of our paint to mimic pores. Coming in here where it gets a little lighter is part of between the nasolabial fold. Again, we're thinking yellow, pink, blue, a little bit of green that's going to kind of disperse in here as well. Putting in, again, very highly chromatic colors here. This is pulling in some of the cinnabar green light into that yellow. As I see it kind of turns over this direction. And so we're interspersing these colors so that we're playing around with this idea again of broken color. Broken color is that the color is not just an homogenized version of what skin color looks like from a distance, but if we were to zoom in, and I always use the example if you were to look at the back of your hand and see where there's warms and greens and pinks, you can see intimately a lot of the color that we have in our skin really beautifully. I'm going to move in from that to just these kind of broad strokes with that brush to a Rosemary and Company ivory pointed round, which is also good for grabbing paint texture here. Not quite, it doesn't load quite as much texture as I like. I actually would love to talk to them about making a very, very stiff version of this brush that we can use. This is still just a little bit too soft for me. Pulling over to here to the softness, kind of manipulating what we already have on the painting. There's a little bit of light passage through here with a little bit more control. And almost just dabbing some of the paint on there. I love some of this orange as well to get some of that sunlit quality. This is a little too dark through here. See, it's a little bit more yellow as it pulls up around, and this is just way more subtle. So getting a lot more texture and a lot more subtlety to the painting. This comes over as we pass through here. I'm thinking about what's going on underneath the layer of any of his hair from his mustache. This gets a little warmer, pulling in some of the brilliant pink into the mix. A little bit more oleopasto to scoop it. So kind of mix it and scoop it, interspersing these warms and cools again. And in the reference, you don't really see it, but we're kind of forcing it just to make the painting a little bit more interesting. We don't ever want to paint from the photograph exactly, verbatim, because we're not photocopy machines, right? We're not trying to replicate the photograph. We're trying to make an interesting painting that has beautiful textures and colors, and if we make this really well, we're going to have a living, luminous representation in paint of the subject. Not a photorealistic version of the photograph. It's funny, people always say, like, well, you paint so realistically, why not just take a photo? A photo would be just as good. And you're like, well, that really is an interesting point of view. However, I think photos don't have this texture, this luminosity, this human, all the mistakes I make within the painting that aren't exact, because I can't paint everything exact. I don't want to. But it doesn't have these coloring colors, and a photograph's great, but it doesn't have the presence of a painting. All these decisions that I'm making as I'm going through the painting that are, some are right, some are wrong. Probably most are wrong. But we're learning how to see better than a camera. From here to here, that space, this is a cast shadow from the mustache, which is really interesting. That comes down a little bit. What do you think about this color? It looks okay. There's these kind of dusty green undertones in the mustache on this side of his face, which I like. I'm putting some more texture through here. And it gets a little warmer through there as well. Really want to build up the surface quality of the painting with texture. That's something that makes it other than a photograph. The texture on the surface. I feel like people who do say that, painters actually, I've heard painters say, why don't you just take a photo? Or you're just copying a photo. I mean, that's so sad, because I think of it as they don't really understand the magic of the texture on a surface that a human being can get, as opposed to, and they don't see the difference. It's kind of like they have this blinders on over what a photo looks like and what a painting, even though I'm using a photo as a reference, can really show about the human touch and texture and decisions that we make that are beyond the photograph. Because the photo is just there. It's just giving me references. Like I see that this goes a little darker. Love just kind of escaping into pushing and pulling the textures and these broken colors in here and forcing more color in than what the reference would have, because it's a daylight painting. The photograph was taken in daylight, and I want these really fun, these are fun paintings. You know, painting Holocaust survivors for me and thinking about what they've been through in their lives, and that can be pretty heavy sometimes for an artist. And these are just kind of the myth of the cowboy. It's kind of a fun stuff to explore. It's a little break from something so serious. And I get to try out different techniques on these too. So, and I loved camping out in the Arizona desert with my buddy Connor before we met, before we did this big photo shoot with Mark. It just seems like also kind of a cool group of artists to hang out with that are all really talented, and that was a lot of fun. Camaraderie. You know, I'm alone in my studio all the time. It's kind of cool to get out and hang with other artists that aren't my wife. I hang out with her a lot. She's incredible. But this is kind of a fun thing to go grab beers with my buddies. I see some green undertones through here and more orange undertones. So pulling in some more of this cadmium orange, which isn't the color I usually use. And a little bit of the Naples yellow. Awesome. So really kind of playing around. I feel like I still need more texture in the lights, and maybe a little bit of texture in the shadows too, just a little bit. I don't want the shadows to come forward too much, but I'm thinking in here, maybe, I don't know, maybe a little bit grayer, a little bit towards the blue that I'm going to put in the background, just to kind of, maybe this is a little bit colder than I have it. Put that as a note for myself. And then think about, played around with texture on another cowboy painting, which I thought came out pretty cool. This is actually pretty hot. The thing, I do want to cool down the shadows a little bit so that the heat doesn't come forward all that much and come forward too much and interfere with the light. Even though the light, it's kind of a fun thing, right? Thinking about how warm colors come forward and cool colors recede within the shadows, but then having cool light, daylight, and warm shadows, kind of opposites that kind of are really interesting within a painting, to kind of give it a little bit more life that you wouldn't see in a photo, because we're making these artistic decisions again. How to paint beyond the photo. Seeing some light through here. I want more texture even. I'm going to go back to this really amazing brush. I got to order some more of these Utrecht brand brushes. more paint and texture. Have that texture follow that form up against here to make it more interesting, and a little bit on that ear. So this painting is going to be in the Far West exhibition at Preacher Gallery in Austin, Texas. Everyone should try to check out that show. I want to have 5 of these. I have 3 that are in the works. I think I'm going to paint some other artists for the show also as cowboys, because they're cowboy painters. And maybe also have I'm exploring some other ideas of painters, of painting some of the horseback riders, the cowboys on horseback as well. We'll see if I finish those. I have like 2 ideas. I did 1 study already. May just keep it as a study. We'll see. And I'm going to have a whole bunch of drawings that I do, my prep drawings for these pieces as well. Love the light that's coming through here. It's a little too light, but we can work with that, get that texture in there. A bit of ultramarine blue. Gotta refresh my ultramarine blue. Ultramarine blue is such a great color because it's such a nice natural pigment. Really plays well with other colors. Awesome, guys. Thanks for watching the demo. This is just kind of a fun, quick painting demo. I'm going to keep my camera on while I do these paintings, just so you guys can share in the love of painting. You guys can see what I'm working on in the studio as I'm doing it. And it's pretty easy. So the only problem is if I'm talking to the camera, I can't be listening to music. So usually I listen to a lot of music while I paint, and I kind of get in a zone. If I'm explaining what I'm working on, can't have music in the background. Thanks, guys. Keep an eye out on the social medias for this finish. If you guys like this content, feel free to like and subscribe to my channel. Also, I want to give a thanks to everybody on Patreon. You guys have been really supportive in the channel. It's definitely not a money-making scheme. I'm setting up the Patreon to be my mailing list. So if you sign up for free, and I have some freebies that you guys can download on there for signing up. I'm working on some drawing high contrast images right now, and I have that as a PDF that you can download for free on the channel. I also have other free content on there as well. And but if you want to support, that's also amazing. There's different levels of support. Although just for $5 a month, you get access to everything. It's $60 a year, and hopefully I'm giving you guys enough content. I'm having a blast. I think I'm posting on there now almost every day. Might be too much content. But for $60, you help support me making these videos, and hopefully we can all get better at painting together, kind of setting up a community over there where I'm learning from folks as well. Folks from India, from Australia, United States, France. Got a good group of people. Awesome, just kind of simplifying what's going on in here, but with texture. Not as much texture as here, but enough. I'm coming in with some of the purples. Purple's such a great color real quick because it's warm and cool, right? It's a mixture of red and blue. And so it's great for unifying areas, especially in the shadow. And it just, the purple in here, it's the dioxazine purple from, I believe, Michael Harding. It's just really rich for getting darks. And it keeps your darks really interesting as opposed to using a black. because there's those warm undertones, which really are beautiful in an area that we want to kind of keep somewhat neutral, but still have character to it. So purple is a great unifier for that. I remember when I was in college learning how to paint, I had a professor, Robert Dacey, at Syracuse University, and he was a big fan. He was a watercolor artist and an oil painter, and he loved this idea of the universal violet wash on your paintings to unify them. Shout out to Bob. He's a great painter. Robert Dacey, Bob Dacey. Amazing illustrator. Awesome, guys. Thanks again, and tune in next time. Cheers. Oh, real quick, if you guys have any questions, feel free to put them in the comment section. I'd love to hear from you guys. What brushes are you guys using to get better texture? I'm always on the lookout. When I was in Atlanta this last week teaching, I stopped at their store, Sam Flax, and bought every stiff brush that I could find that they had there. All the Scumblers were from Princeton brushes that I just got, and I've been playing around with. This edge is too hard. This pulls around this way. Thanks everybody for watching. I want to thank everybody who's been supporting me on Patreon. Helps me to keep making these deep dive lessons. I also get ideas from you guys for videos on there. If this video helped you to think differently about scumbling and layering of broken color, hit that like and subscribe button. I'll see you guys in the next one. Paint well. Cheers.